Alright everyone, welcome to Tuesday's video, and we're building ahead to tonight's big game, Celtic versus Aberdeen at Celtic Park, as the team go for win number 1 of the 6 in a row needed to secure 4 in a row. That's not confusing at all. You know what I mean. Absolutely no laughing at Rangers today, anyone. Promise you that. As always with these day of the game videos, my job is to go through yesterday's press conferences and tell you everything you need to know ahead of tonight's game, as well as going through any other news that may have happened. There's a couple of wee things to discuss today. Press conference wise, Brendan Rodgers was in really good form, I thought, yesterday. Very keen to make the point that Celtic have moved on from the weekend defeat at Easter Road. We're looking forward now rather than backwards. He was given a fair amount of opportunity to say we're moving on, because he was asked a fair bit about the weekend and the VAR controversy that ruled out Dyson Maida's goal. And he managed to have a nice, pretty subtle, kind of subtle dig at our poor old rivals as well in this answer. Rodgers said, "I don't think there's any more footage on it. I think the club go through the process. We don't make statements and do all sorts of things. We just go through the procedure and the process, which is for the club to speak to the SFA and just get a feeling of what they think. Obviously, we haven't had any back yet. My feeling is still the same, having watched it and seen the various images. There are a couple of images that you see where the illusion is that it's out, but then there are others that will look like it's clearly in. I've seen one image of one right on the actual goal line, which was an incredible shot really, and that looked in. It's more the process really. I was disappointed for the guys in the game, Steve, that's Stephen McLean, and the referee and the linesman, because they actually got it correct in the game. I didn't feel that they should have been overruled on that without a definitive answer, which is what I said at the time." Hard to disagree with that at all from Brendan Rodgers. Very dignified. He was clearly quite angry after the game on Saturday, but not wound up, not angry. They're very considered response, and yeah, hard to disagree with it. As I say, I guess we'll get a verdict from the SFA at some stage. We'll have their key match incident review panel findings that will emerge on Friday, I believe. We'll also have Willie Collum trying to explain things on the VAR review in March. I fully expect to be told that a mistake was made, but that's not exactly going to help us out on Saturday. But Brendan Rodgers very keen to move on from things. In terms of other topics that were covered in his press conference, if I just run through some of them, he was asked obviously about Philippe Clement, and you can predict the answer that he gave. As always, Brendan Rodgers is sad to see any manager losing their job, and he reiterated that again. At this stage, he could just like tap his phone and play a recording. I'm very sad to hear that another Rangers manager has lost his job, because I am much better at management and I have a much better group of players and work for a much better club, and we win things and they don't. Hence why said manager has been sacked. He could just do that in future when the next Rangers manager, Barry Ferguson, is sacked. Anyway, sorry, we're not laughing at Rangers today. Yeah, Brendan Rodgers says the team are hungry to respond tonight. The weekend just shows what can happen when you're not at the top of your game. But I guess it's a real positive and a sign of how on top of our game consistently the team have been this season. Our consistency has been great this season, and Brendan Rodgers pointed that out. He was asked about Paulo Bernardo and how far away he is from returning. Still a fair bit away. Bernardo was given time off just after picking up his injury, so I assume he went back home, or maybe he went on another tour of the US. Did he go to Disneyland or something in the summer? Anyway, he's back with us now, and hopefully he's back sooner rather than later. Brendan Rodgers expects a tough game from Aberdeen tonight. We also had Alistair Johnston in front of the media, which I guess is an interesting choice given events at Easter Road on Saturday. Again, the message from Alistair Johnston was moving on from the weekend. On that, he said, "There's no real time to dwell on things. It gives us an opportunity to get right back out there and right our wrongs to a degree." There's an excitement there from the group that we get another chance to go out there. This is a big week for us. Obviously, 3 matches. The last midweek match before the split. We'll have one more after the split normally. So after this, it gets the schedule for us gets a little bit slower with more, one match kind of a week. I think that's a very good point from Alistair Johnston, and it's really kind of quite good. I think that he's on top of all this and he knows not just what's coming up directly in front of us, but also the plan going forward. And it's probably something that's been spoken about a fair bit in the Celtic dressing room. And it is worth us spending a minute or two on that. We are approaching the next international break. We're still like 4 weeks away, still a number of games away, including a derby. But we are coming to the end of this ultra-marathon. In fact, you would have to say the weekend's game against St Mirren this Saturday's probably the end of the ultramarathon period, and it's been happening since we returned from the last international break in November. Since we returned, and you'll remember the first game back was that Saturday night game we had at Tynecastle, that just seems a long time ago. It's actually only 94 days ago from today, and including tonight's game, we'll have played 26 matches across those 94 days. So that's a match every 3 or 4 days, and big matches as well, European games, cup finals, other big games domestically. It's been a hell of a run for everyone, to be honest, and we probably all feel like we need a bit of a lie down. So God knows how the players and the management are feeling, but this period was billed as like a huge one, and we knew it would determine, to be honest, how the season would be remembered mainly. And I think, obviously, we've got a game tonight and a game against St Mirren on Saturday, and then there's obviously games to come after that. But I think you would have to say that this period has been a really successful one for Celtic. You look at it tournament by tournament, Europe has been a massive success. I think we'd all have signed up for finishing, 21st I think it was, in the big league table, and then running Bayern Munich about as close as you can run them. Huge success, Europe, and the team deserve immense credit for that. We've lifted the League Cup. Again, huge credit to the team. We're going strong. Quarterfinals of the Scottish Cup, looking good in that. Tough game against Hibs up next, but we'll come to that pretty soon. And we're 13 points clear at the top of the league and absolutely nailed on at this stage for 4 in a row. So you can't really fault the team at all. I know there's been the odd match maybe away from home, Ibrox the weekend, a couple of draws in Dundee as well. I know not every game has been swashbuckling football, but if you look at the objectives we would have had at the start of this ultra-marathon period, and that's what the manager called it in November, we've probably met virtually every expectation and ticked it off. So the team deserve huge credit. Tonight is the penultimate midweek match of the season. As Alistair Johnston said, we'll have one more after the split. So it's just a case, I think, for the team, get through tonight, win the game, beat St Mirren on Saturday, and then you can kind of rest a little bit. You're only really going to have one game a week for the rest of the season at that point, apart from 1 week. And I think recent seasons tells us that Celtic hit their highest level when we've only got one game a week. We can rest players. I always think the players, when they've only got one chance to shine per week on the weekend, I always think we tend to find a higher level of performance. So I'm very excited about the rest of the season. But huge credit to the team for coming through this ultra-marathon. In terms of tonight, the squad is the same as the weekend. James Forrest still not available. He's getting there though. Paulo Bernardo missing as well. Team I'm going for, just to read it out for you: Kasper Schmeichel, back 4 of Alistair Johnston, Cameron Carter-Vickers, Austin Trusty and Jeff Schlupp. I'm going for Callum McGregor, Arne Engels and Reo Hatate in the midfield. Nicholas Kuhn on the right, Jota on the left and Dyson Maeda through the middle. Yes, I think this is our strongest team at the moment. It's the team that started in Munich. It's the team that came on at half-time at Easter Road and performed a lot better, and it's a team I want to see tonight. It's a tough one with Adam Idah. I don't think Adam Idah's been as bad as people have suggested. And part of me thinks like you kind of should persevere with him. And like we might see someone like Nicholas Kuhn maybe not starting tonight because he's played a lot of football recently and he maybe was carrying an injury at the weekend. So it might be that like Kuhn doesn't start and we have Jota and Maida as our wingers and Ida up top. I wouldn't be totally surprised at all if that happened. But I think for me, you know, kind of coming up with my best team here, that's what I would go for tonight. Certainly Jess Schlupp in it at left back is important. Officials wise tonight we have John Beaton as the referee. Assistant refs are Daniel McFarlane and Jonathan Bell. Greg Aitken is on VAR and assistant VAR is David Dunn. And I'm sure we won't be talking about them at all. Aberdeen team news wise, we've got Dante Polvara, Esther Sockler, who scored at Celtic Park. One of only 2 goals that we've conceded at home in the league all season. Gavin Malloy, Jamie McGrath and Vicente Bissauen are all going to miss tonight's game, apparently. So you won't be seeing them. They've picked up a bit recently. 3 wins in a row, beat Kilmarnock 1-0 at the weekend. Their goal scorer on Saturday is a recent signing. He was a sub on Saturday. Ode Daba scored a last-minute goal for Aberdeen on Saturday. He's a Palestinian international who's made a pretty good start to his time at Aberdeen and could well start the game tonight. I certainly think it would be great to see him playing at Celtic Park, and he'd probably get a pretty good reception as well. So, yep, Ode Daba is a player to keep an eye on. But we know Aberdeen are a good side. They started the season really well. We're being talked about as potential league title challengers, and we kind of blew them away. They've fallen away a fair bit, and they're now playing for third. But I still think it's going to be a tricky one tonight. I do think we'll see a bit of a reaction from the team, though, just from what Alistair Johnston was saying about moving on. What Arnie Engel said after the game on Saturday about not kind of doing ourselves justice in the first half. And I think after the way Munich went, and obviously it was a hell of a low losing to Munich, but I think a real high for the team in terms of how they performed in that stage. I think they'll have all been pretty disappointed not to back that up on Saturday. And like, again, I've not got the numbers, but I think history would tell us that generally when this team loses a game, well, in any competition, but especially domestically, the reaction is almost always pretty good. So I would expect the reaction to be good tonight. We've been near faultless at Celtic Park. Only 2 goals conceded, only 2 points dropped, I think, as well, which were against tonight's opponent. So maybe a little bit of a score to settle there as well. But yeah, back at Celtic Park, feeling good about ourselves. A little bit of a point to prove after the weekend. I think all those factors suggest to me that we'll see a big performance from Celtic tonight. And yeah, just looking forward to seeing the team back in action. I think generally a lot of players are playing pretty well at the moment. Jeff Schlupp I think looks great. I want to see him back in the starting lineup tonight, performing like he did in the second half at Easter Road. I think Real Hatate's been pretty good recently. I know he still maybe gives the ball away a little bit, but I think he's kind of coming on to a game in recent weeks. Jota, you just want to see him playing again. And Daizen Maida, of course, is if he plays, he's likely to score a goal. So yeah, looking forward to midweek games at Celtic Park are always good. And tonight's game is actually a televised game as well. Sky Sports have the rights to tonight's game. So if you're in the UK, you'll be able to watch that on Sky Sports Main Event as well as Sky Sports Football. It's an 8 p.m. kickoff and their coverage starts at 7:15. So 45 minutes worth of build up to that one. And maybe, just maybe, if we have some sort of controversial VAR incident, Sky will have a camera in the right place. Certainly stick one on the goal line so we can tell if the ball is in or out. But yeah, looking forward to a home game. 6 wins to go in a row to win the league. Let's tick one of them off tonight up against one of the bigger and better clubs in Scotland. So enjoy yourself wherever you're watching. Hopefully Celtic can get another 3 points. And I'll return tomorrow morning looking back in the game. Speak to you then.